All right, today we are going to learn about Agile. We're going to go right, we're going to go left, we're going to go back, we're going to go forwards, we're going to go sideways, we're going to go this way, that, and then we're going to score big goals. Except that's probably not what you think about whenever you're thinking about Agile. My name is Amber Vanderburg, and I am the founder of the Pathways Group. And today we're going to talk about applying Agile outside of development. But first, we must go through a paradigm shift. We must go through a perspective change to apply Agile outside of development. See, when do teams truly begin being agile? When does the conversation or the behavior of agility happen within teams? Well, in fact, we begin in our very nascent beginnings by being extremely agile within our teams and organizations. In fact, there's a psychologist named Bruce Tuckman, and he tells us that all teams go through different stages. They go through a cycle of development. And as teams come together, they actually go through a forming stage. So they come together and they form as a team. Then they go through a storming stage and they begin asking themselves the questions. How do we want to operate? What are our methods? What are our approaches? What's our mindset? What's our processes? What's our communication style? How are we going to operate as a team? And in this storming phase, we are extremely agile as we are trying new things. We are making adjustments and we are constantly trying to decide how we will operate and what is the best way for us to function as a team. And as we are asking these questions, we actually set ourselves up to enter in through the norming stage. So we are establishing norms within our team. And as we go through this forming, storming, norming stage, we actually do take a slight dip in performance as we are asking these questions and establishing norms. But we position ourselves to catapult into a higher level of performance than when we started in that forming stage. And all teams go through this process. And in this process, we are extremely agile as we are asking ourselves and constantly making adjustments to how we will function as a team. But it's important to keep in mind that Tuckman's cycle of the team does not end here. In fact, there is a fifth stage to team development, and that is adjourning. And in the adjourning stage, teams go through a bit of a retrospective at the end of a milestone. They begin to ask themselves the questions: what went well, and what can we do just a little bit better? And so it's in this adjourning stage that we ask the questions to actually cut through the norms to go into a new forming or storming stage to establish better norms to catapult our performance. And see, as we go through our cycles as a team, we don't go through this once, we actually do it multiple times. In fact, as we go through this process, we take the time and we cut through the norms to catapult ourselves to a higher level. And every time that we go through this adjourning stage, we establish new levels of storming. We start storming at a higher level of performance to catapult ourselves to a higher level of performance so that we can adjourn and continue to improve and progress and develop as a team. And so with this in mind, in how teams and how organizations and how departments go through these cycles, it's almost as if in 2001, the industry went through a massive macro level retrospective or adjourning stage and began to ask themselves, what is going well and what can we do just a little bit better? And in 2001, a group of developers gathered together in Utah and established the Agile Manifesto. Now, the Agile Manifesto is a simple document that revolutionized development throughout the world. The Agile Manifesto consists of 4 major statements. It asks the questions, what if we put our people over processes? What if we put working software over comprehensive documentation? We place customer collaboration over contract negotiation and responding to change over following a strict plan. And that's it. This is the Agile Manifesto. But we're only 5 minutes into this presentation, and in my greatest act of agile heresy, I ask, what if we took a moment to consider the possibility of an alternative word to this manifesto? What if, instead of having people over processes, we actually had people that owned processes? What if instead we had working software that owned our comprehensive documentation? We changed the word over to the word owned. And this is a slight paradigm shift in our approach to the Agile Manifesto. See, rather than responding to change over following a plan, or rather than following a plan, we're simply changing a plan that we own. So this is going to have a little bit of a difference in our approach to applying Agile outside and inside of development. I don't know about you, but I've spent a lot of time in this quarantine season walking around my neighborhood 5 million times. And one thing that I've noticed is that some people are walking their dog, and other times it seems like the dog is actually walking the person. And so this really puts the idea of who is actually in the driver's seat. And so it's not saying that we don't want processes. We're saying that processes are not in the driver's seat. They're not walking, they're the ones that are walking the dog, right? So we are controlling our steps, we're controlling the pace, we're controlling the direction. And so we are the ones that are in control of this product development. Some people might say, oh, Amber, that sounds nice and fine, but another thing that I have done in this quarantine time is I've spent a lot of time with my family and with my siblings, and with my youngest sister, I actually spent time building this Play-Doh creation. And this Play-Doh creation, we actually spent a lot of time doing. It might seem like a simple O, but we had a lot of conversation of what color we were going to choose, what shape we were going to make, how big we were going to make it, what the texture was. There was a lot of conversation behind this simple Play-Doh structure. And you might feel like this whenever you come into an organization. We hear the stories, we hear how we got what we have today, of people that went through the processes of creating our current ways of work. And it can be very tempting in this time to hold on to what has been created. However, if I simply hold on to this Play-Doh, eventually it's going to become outdated. It's going to become irrelevant. It's going to become harder to change, and it's going to become a little bit crusty. And in the same regard, if we do not change our organizations, they too can become a little outdated, become harder to change, might become a little bit crusty. And see, our job within organizations is not simply to hold, but actually to mold. And as we are changing our organizations, we can expand our reach, we can become more relevant, and we can truly pave the way for the future in our teams and in our organizations. You might think, Amber, how do I actually begin that change within my team? Well, in 2016, I actually had the opportunity to forego my life in corporate human resources and in corporate America as I went to become the only American, the only female, the only Christian, and the only blonde academy football coach or soccer coach for the Adidas Game Day Academies and Paris Saint-Germain PSG Academies in Bangalore, India, to coach widely the first generation of athletes on both an elite and a grassroots level. We coached about a dozen teams, mostly boys with a few girls, ages 6 to about 16. And as I got off the plane, I discovered that our teams were operating under a very strict command-obey dynamic. See, oftentimes our players would come to sessions and they would stand in a line, kick a ball, wait for instruction. And they would come to our sessions and they would stand in a line, kick a ball, wait for direction. And while this may have been an efficient way to teach a skill, in a game scenario, it was a disaster. Oftentimes our players, within the course of a game, would kick the ball perfectly, exactly the way that we taught them. And then, before the play was even over, we would turn to the sideline to the coach for further direction and feedback. See, they had mastered the task, but they didn't quite understand how it applied to the overall game scenario. And so, the first thing that we had to do was stop. Stop commanding the how and start clearly communicating our what and our why. So we clearly communicated what we were doing and why that was important. Now, this was not a dramatic shift. It wasn't a complete overhaul of our training. In fact, it was a slight pivot. So this was a difference in the way that we were developing our team players to perform at a higher level to achieve our desired outcomes. And so we clearly communicated what we want, what to do, and why that was important. And then we allowed opportunities for ownership within the how. In application, it looked a little something like this. So rather than stand in a line, kick a ball, wait for instruction, we provided challenges. So from here, kick the ball to knock down those 3 cones. Because in order to do that, you're going to have to kick with power and precision. And in a game scenario, whenever you pass, whenever you kick, whenever you shoot, you're also going to have to kick with power and precision. From here, our team had opportunities for ownership to try different ways to kick the ball to find the best way to best achieve our goals. Now, there were aspects of the game and aspects of football that we could not change, but I found that there were 4 major opportunities for ownership that we could provide for our team members. Now, these opportunities for ownership oftentimes make up the uniquely better aspect of a team. Oftentimes, they can make up the competitive advantage of an organization. And so these opportunities for ownership lied within our processes, our methods, our projects, and our roles. Let's break those down for a minute. We had opportunities for ownership within our processes. This meant that the team players could decide, do I want to knock down the first cone first? Knock down the 3rd cone? Do I want to go for a strike? What is my process in knocking down these 3 cones? In the same regards, we can ask, what is the process of our communication? What is the process of processing our paperwork, of going through our retrospectives? What is the process in our stand-ups? What is a way that we can be uniquely better and take ownership within our processes? We looked at our methods. How are we kicking the ball? What is the method that we are using to kick the ball? Is it the in-foot, the out-foot, the laces, the left foot, the right? What is our method of kicking the ball? In the same regard, we can look at our methods of design, our methods of development, our methods of innovation. What are the methods that we are using within our team to be uniquely better, to add unique value within our teams and within our organizations? We had to look at our projects, which could be as grand as a match or as a tournament, but they also could be projects within our training and within our development, such as picking up the water bottles or leading the team in warm-ups or in sprints. We had projects that we could use that our team members had opportunities for ownership to add unique value. In the same regard, look at the projects that your team, that your organization are doing to add unique value to your organization and to the industry. And then lastly, we had opportunities for ownership within our roles. Now, roles do not always have to be position. Sometimes I have people say, Amber, we don't have a leader, we don't have a scrum master on our team. How can we implement Agile? You don't have to be a scrum master, you don't have to be in a leadership position to embody the role of a leader. Your role could be the leader, could be the devil's advocate, could be the gatekeeper, could be the comedic relief. What is the role that you are playing within your team to add unique value? In the same regard, what role is your team playing to add unique value to the department? What role does your department play to add unique value to the organization? Take it a step further. What value, what unique value, what role does your organization play to add unique value to the industry? And as we found these opportunities for ownership, guided by a clearly communicated what and why, we found that our players were able to have more confidence, they were able to be more agile in trying new things, and then we found ways to truly be uniquely better within these 4 opportunities for ownership within our team. Now, as we worked within our organizations and as I worked with a variety of different teams, I saw that clearly communicating the what and the why and then providing opportunities for ownership within the how actually sparked some of the most heated debates I'd ever seen amongst 7-year-olds, trying to decide if the best way to kick the ball was with the infoot or with the laces. In reality, both ways were right. And so we were able to expand our toolbox of resources from one way of kicking the ball to 2. And so from this, we truly realized that with an opportunity for ownership came a greater opportunity for conflict. Beforehand, there wasn't a discussion of the best way to kick the ball because we only taught one way. Now, we had at least 2, and we had more discussion and more opportunity for conflict. So with an opportunity for ownership comes an opportunity for conflict. But also comes a greater opportunity for conversation over complacency. Now, we didn't want to create an environment that would have more conflict, that would bring about more conflict and more heated discussions, and not equip our team to have conversations over complacency. This is something that I see many times within teams. The goal is to have more conversations over complacency, but that is whenever we are taking that dip, we are storming to go to catapult into higher performance. And so we wanted to equip our team members to engage in these conversations in a truly healthy manner. And so we wanted to have conversations within our teams. One thing that we did at the beginning of our projects and at the beginning of a new team, I do this whenever I work with a new client, we begin a new project, I come into a new organization, or we bring in new team members. In order to have great conversations, we first had to assess our team dynamics and truly build relationships with those in our teams. In order to be truly agile and to move together as a unit, you need to know people within your team. Now, in this unique season, there is actually a unique opportunity and a unique challenge where it can be very easy to simply know people as a name on a screen and simply a face. You might even know their title, but not truly know the people in your organization. And so being extremely intentional to meet people within your team and go beyond superficial Amber, founder of a company, actually knowing what value I can bring can be extremely beneficial and a true game changer for your team. See, relationships are going to be the difference between you managing change and you leading change within your organization. Relationships are going to be the difference between you managing agility and managing agile methods within your team and actually leading the team in agile methodology. And so we had to first begin by truly building those relationships within your teams. And this can be done in a variety of different ways. One thing that I do very specifically within teams is we get a true assessment of team dynamics. And so it's very catered into what value people can bring to an organization. Now, this is not an exhaustive list. Surely there is more that people can bring to an organization than the few things that I'm going to point out. And there's a variety of different ways. At the Pathways group, we have a catalog of different ways to assess team dynamics. But a simple thing that you can do, a 1 to 2 minute activity that you can do within your teams to get a really quick snapshot, is I pull out a note card. And on the front side of the card, I have people write areas in which they feel strong, areas in which they feel like they can bring value to the organization. And so what are your biggest strengths that you can add to the team? And then on the opposite side of the card, write areas in which you hope somebody else on the team is very strong. Areas that you really hope somebody else can bring that value and bring that to the team. I'll give you an example. Whenever I do this activity, I write that I am very much a big picture, visionary type of person. And that can be a really good thing, and it can bring a lot of value to a team. But on the opposite side, I write that I really hope that there is somebody on the team that is detail oriented and very good at the follow through. And I know that we are going to complement one another. However, we will probably also have areas of conflict. And so, knowing this, I encourage teams, we always go in through proactive conversations. Now, a proactive conversation is a simple conversation where we come to the table, and again, I do this with a new client, I do this with a new team at the beginning of a new project, and we simply state, at some point in this relationship, there's going to be conflict. At some point in this project, there's going to be tension, there's going to be heat. And now we've had a slight look at our team dynamics, and we know very specifically where that tension and where that heat will more than likely lie. And so, while our emotions are low now, let us proactively discuss how we want to handle those situations whenever it inevitably arises. And this does two really powerful things. First, it allows us to really admit and acknowledge that conflict and tension happens within teams. So often, teams avoid confrontation because we don't want to admit that tension does exist. We don't want to acknowledge that there is heat, that there is conflict. And in this proactive conversation, you're saying not only does it happen, we're expecting it to happen. And so it sets a bit of normalcy for conflict within teams. The second really powerful thing that it does is it creates a script. It creates a game plan. Many times people don't want to go into a conversation to discuss heat and tension and possible conflict within a team because there's a bit of ambiguity of how will the other person respond? What should I say? How is this going to go? What are the steps? But by having a proactive conversation, you have a game plan already in place. And so there is less ambiguity on how those conversations are going to go. And so you're able to create that environment. The reality is that we cannot implement Agile all on our own. See, if we want to do something bigger than ourselves, then we have to include more than ourselves. Not a single person on our team could win the match all on their own. They needed the 10 other players, the coaches, the fans. They needed other people. Other people were involved in championing the success of the team. And if you can achieve your dreams all on your own, then you're probably not dreaming big enough. Say that again. If you can achieve your dreams all on your own, then you're probably not dreaming big enough. If you want to do something bigger than yourself, then you have to include more people than yourself. And so we had an environment where we could truly have conversations, meaningful conversations, and true collaboration within our team. So we clearly communicated our what and our why, and provided opportunities for ownership within the how. And then we collaborated as a team as we were going through those forming, storming, and norming stages to have effective conversations to catapult to a higher level of performance. Now, all of this truly began with clearly communicating our what and our why. I want to pause on that for just a moment. See, one of my favorite authors and leadership gurus, Dr. Mark Rutland, he writes that all great communication boils down to four major things, and that is the right message delivered the right way to the right audience at the right time. I'll say that again. Great communication is the right message delivered the right way to the right audience at the right time. We had to be very mindful of clearly communicating our what and our why to create an environment for great performance within our teams. That way we could have that ownership within our processes and methods and projects and roles, and we could truly collaborate and have meaningful conversations with our teams. Now, that's a lot of information. How do we actually apply this to and outside of development? How do we apply this Agile outside development? See, now we've discussed a little bit of what Agile is, what the Agile Manifesto is. We've created a little bit of heresy in saying, what if we actually own our processes? What if we actually own the plan rather than putting something over it? And then we have some tools in how to be effectively agile within our teams. See, I was working with an organization in their HR department. Now, this HR department had gone from a team of 5 to a team of 23 in a matter of a year, in a matter of 1 year. And the processes and the methods of communication and the hierarchy, the documentation that they had as a team of 5 was crippling the department as a team of 23. There was wasted time, there was wasted energy, there was miscommunication everywhere. And so the result was a lot of documentation to try to help prevent from miscommunication, but that meant that people spent more time documenting than actually working, and so then there was a stress of a time gap. Every single employee was spending 6 to 8 hours minimum of documentation. That's almost a full day of work documenting rather than actually doing the work, and so there was a still miscommunication, and there was a frustration in the time. The processes were absolutely crippling. You had 7, 8, 9 people serving one service line, all going through the same application, so you were having double work. The process time for an entry-level employee entry-level employee was 3 to 5 months for a new entry-level employee to come in. There was frustration. There was a lot of tension, and this waterfall method that was being used to process new employees, to bring new people into the organization, was absolutely being crippled. And so we did a few different things to help the team be a little bit more agile. First thing that we did was we implemented a Kanban type board. And so we actually created a board where we could put all of the applicants in one place. And we had those that had been interviewed, those that had been offered the job, those that were in negotiation, and we had different levels so that we could clearly look and see, okay, who is the applicant I'm looking for, where are they at in the process, and it was very clear in one look to see who was where and where we were in the process. This helped to cut down on a lot of our documentation. So rather than saying, okay, how close are we to filling this position, you could clearly look and see where everybody was. So that actually significantly helped us actually take control of that documentation piece. So we actually began the conversation by looking and saying, okay, what do we need to do? What do we need to do? Why is that important? What are our opportunities? What feels like it's owning us? How can we take back that ownership through these different opportunities for ownership? And so implementing the Kanban board was one of our first steps. Another thing that we did was we actually split into micro teams. And so we had teams of 3 to 5 people per service line. So we cut that down into almost half, and then added cross functionality so that we could be more agile within the actual teams. We had a more catered look at helping our service lines. We implemented daily stand-ups so we could have a quick check-in, so we could provide those resources that we need, so we could equip our team to actually operate at a higher level. We were able to have quicker feedback loops because of that, so that we could see areas for improvement and areas that we could grow as an organization and as a team. And so with all of that, we implemented a lot of ways that we could actually put our people, which is very important in human resources, that are owning our processes. We were actually working and we owned our documentation. We still did a decent amount of documentation, but we felt like it truly we owned the documentation rather than it owning us. We were able to respond to a change. We had micro teams that were able to be a little bit more agile. We had more cross functionality than that, rather than having to communicate with twice as many people that may not have all been as knowledgeable in each service line. We had catered groups within each micro team so we could respond to change over following a plan. And from these sorts of changes, we were able to decrease our process time for an entry-level employee from 3 to 5 months to 3 to 5 weeks. We're still working to continuously improve that and to help it be a little bit faster, but that is a dramatic shift. 3 to 5 months to 3 to 5 weeks. That is a dramatic change in and really transformational in processing and in developing new talent within the organization. Now, you don't only have to be in for-profit to apply Agile outside of development. In fact, I was working with a nonprofit organization, and this nonprofit organization had a goal and has a goal to really make an impact, has a true heart and a passion for helping other people. And so they had a lot of projects and a lot of opportunity to serve and be of help to other people. And the problem is that to call it scope creep is a bit of an injustice. It really was more like scope invasion. And so starting with 5 projects in about 6 months, it had turned into over 70 different projects. Everything was expanding. It was true scope invasion. And so if you looked at the focus that was being had, there was only a little bit of focus per project that teams could and people could have per project. And the result was haphazard focus per project. None were actually being completed. The staff felt extremely overwhelmed. The processes that they were operating under was, again, a waterfall method, and so there was a massive wait time amongst each one, and they were not able to efficiently serve the communities that they were trying to help. This was the epitome of the processes were owning the people. The plan was owning the ability to make these changes. There wasn't a clear focus, and so what we did is we actually went with the team and we took all of the 72 different projects that they had and we put them into a backlog. We put them all into a backlog. We spent time prioritizing each one, did just a little bit of looks at design planning and sprint planning for each one, and then we took a few out at a time, so only 2 or 3 out at a time, and we had sprints of each one. Now, this was extremely powerful because after we finished each project, this not only built momentum, it helped build morale within the team, but at the end of each project, at the end of each sprint, we were able to have a retrospective, and we were able to ask ourselves the questions: what went well, and what can we do just a little bit differently? And so we were able to make the adjustments that we needed. Not only did we complete these projects, we made adjustments so that the next 2 or the next 1 or the next few that we pulled out of the backlog, we were more equipped with the right processes, with the right methods, with the right projects and the right roles to be more effective and more efficient in serving our community. We didn't look at everything else that was in the backlog. We had extreme focus on these sprints. Teams felt more energized. They saw the momentum. They were able to see the results. And whenever you are implementing Agile within your team, having these wins, having these small wins is incredibly important in increasing your buy-in and allowing people to truly see the impact of Agile within a team. And so we were able to implement Agile and help the nonprofit become a little bit more agile so that they could serve more people and truly make an impact in the world. Now, you don't only have to be in for-profit and nonprofit. In fact, we were able to implement Agile in our everyday life. Last year, I had the opportunity to go to Thailand for a month. I was with a team of people from all over the country. So we had people from coast to coast in the United States, and we were all going to come together and we were going to fly to Bangkok, Thailand, and spend a month there as a team. Now, as you can imagine, this required a lot of planning. And personally, this was one of my greatest planning feats of getting everyone's flights synchronized and the train schedules and the hotels. And with all of this planning, it could be very easy to have a strict plan and have the plan kind of own our days. And this was, in fact, a holiday. And so it was a group of my colleagues and my friends. And so we were going there on a holiday. And so we didn't want the plan to own us. We didn't want the plan to own us. We wanted to be able to be agile throughout our holiday, throughout our vacation. And so what we did is we implemented stand-ups at the beginning of each day. And we began asking ourselves, what do we want to do? Why is it important? What are our opportunities for ownership? And this was extremely important, especially whenever we missed the bus and the train. But we never missed a flight, so I consider that a success. And so we had our stand-ups at the beginning of the day, and we began identifying, okay, what do we want to do? Why do we want to do it? What are our opportunities for ownership? And then at the end of every day, we had a retrospective, and we began asking ourselves, what went well? What can we do a little bit better? What adjustments can we make for tomorrow? And so rather than waiting till the end of our holiday to have a massive retrospective, which we did, we actually had retrospectives at the end of every day. So we were able to make those adjustments as we went along. And the first week of our holiday was dramatically different than the last week of our holiday because we had made the adjustments that we needed in our communication style, in the pace that we were going, in our routine, in the planning that we had. We were able to make those adjustments throughout the trip and truly be agile to actually have a very productive and have an effective holiday and have an effective vacation for our trip in Thailand. And so whether or not you're on a personal, professional, for-profit, non-profit, Agile can be applied in a variety of ways. And I encourage you to begin the conversation by building relationships, and asking those questions. What do you want to do? Why is it important? And in a tactful way, ask what are some areas that you feel owned? In what areas are you walking the dog, and in what areas is the dog walking you? How can we help you be successful in that? Again, relationships are going to be the difference between you managing change and you leading change. And by asking these questions, you are able to actually position Agile and Agile methodologies from a point of help and a point of helping other people to achieve their goals more efficiently, more effectively, and in a more enjoyable manner. Now, I've given you a lot of tools. We've talked about a lot of different things. Now I'm reminded of one more story in scoring goals. See, whenever I was coaching overseas, I had a young lad named Achintya. Now Achintya was 6 years old, and he was so excited for his first day of football. He came running out onto the field, and he began yelling, "Pass, pass, pass!" But I noticed that Achintya was yelling pass even whenever the other team had the ball. And he was yelling pass whenever he was miles away from the action. And he was yelling pass even whenever he had the ball. And so he was running with the ball, yelling, "Pass, pass, pass!" And so I looked at Achintya and I asked him, I said, "Achintya, why are you yelling pass?" And he looked up at me and he said, "Miss Amber, ma'am, I do not know what it means. I only know it is a football word." Sometimes I hear leaders sound a little bit like my friend Achintya, yelling, "Agile, leadership, communication, collaboration, teamwork, we got this!" Because we know that these are really good words that can lead to really big goals. But if we're in the wrong position, if we're miles away from the action, or even if we have the ball and we don't know in which direction we're going, then saying these words are not only ineffective, they're actually detrimental to the overall communication within the team. Eventually, the team is going to tune you out. See, if we say that we want to be more agile, and then we do not take the action, or if we are not in a position to take action, then that is not only ineffective, it is actually detrimental to the overall communication within our teams. But if we first take the time to build meaningful and genuine relationships with those in our teams, if we take the time to clearly communicate our what and our why, and then provide opportunities for ownership within the how, within our processes and our methods and our projects and our roles, and if we take the time to communicate clearly with our teams the right message in the right way at the right time to the right audience, and we recognize that we have to include others and collaborate and truly collaborate with others within our team. We have these proactive conversations to see how we can best communicate and operate as a team. And if we first take the time to clearly see how Agile can help our team take back ownership, then, and only then, will we be in a position to yell pass, to receive the ball, to move forward, and to score really big goals. My name is Amber Vanderburg, and I work for a company in the Pathways Group, and we implement Agile within organizations all over the world every day. This is something that we have done I have done on the football pitch or on the soccer field, but you can apply it within your teams today, within your personal life, your professional life, in any industry. You can be more agile to receive the ball, move forward, and to score really big goals. Thank you so much for having me here today.